We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
with global pals. It's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
everything theater, even though my banner doesn't say that today. It really is. Hi, everyone. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I am Ellen Cribbs. Yes, Benita is traveling right now, working at the Majestic in sheer madness. How's it going?
It's madness, surely. It's wonderful. It's great to be reunited with this merry band of thespians. And, to repeat a show is quite interesting. It's as the director, Bobby Lorman, who's been with it, he directs the show down at the Kennedy Center, which is a whole nother story, right? But as he always, when he starts, he says, there are things you think you remember from the production you did. And memory is not always 100%. So it's fun to, you bring it back, but there's always a little bit of relearning. And that's quite exciting, quite frankly.
That's amazing.
We
Before we jump into it with our guest, I'm going to quickly mention that this episode is sponsored. We have a sponsorship from Harbinger Theater. They're doing a co-production with the Sand Lake Center for the Arts. They're doing the show At the Wedding. Here's a quick synopsis. Carlo crashes her ex's wedding with 3 simple goals. Don't get drunk. Don't make any kids cry. Don't try to win back the bride, no matter how boring the groom is. A very, very funny play about loneliness and estrangement and a slow burn romance with being alive. So go check it out. It's running from the 6th to the 15th at the Sand Lake Center for the Arts. Tickets are available at www.slca-ctp.org. And it is part of the Capital Region Festival of Theater, or Craft, Theater Festival, which is happening this weekend. Come check it out. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday events, all 4 days. You can go check it out at crftinc.org.
And Ellen, you're involved in it. I'm out of town, but you're doing a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I've coordinated the one acts on the 15th at UAlbany. It's 15 one acts from all different amazing companies in the area.
And we've got with us Jared Janas. He is a wig and hairstylist, and also has his own business where he's got a talent pipeline for the young, the excited, and maybe the naive. But Jared, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, nice to see everybody.
Jared, you have done wigs, hairstyles, makeup for some of the biggest shows on Broadway.
Yes.
Goodnight Oscar, Kimberly Akimbo. I'm reading, Glengarry Glen Ross. Now John Proctor is the villain. Dude, when do you sleep?
That's a great question. I actually was just traveling the entire month of May. Now that the Broadway season's done, I have to do all the regional stuff, and it's actually been hurting my my sleep a lot. I just got back from Los Angeles doing a great production of Hamlet, and I didn't get in until 1 o'clock in the morning, and I immediately had to go to try to sleep really quickly. I got 4 hours of sleep because, of course, I was on the wrong time zone now, and then I had to go right into a big makeup test for another show the next morning. So I've had very little sleep lately. But keep going while you got the energy, right?
Exactly. How did you get started in this?
Well, it's sort of a strange story. I definitely did not get started the way you would think. So I went to college and grad school for mathematics, and I was a mathematician originally for 11 years. And but at the end of grad school, I discovered theater. A friend of mine asked me to come help out at the theater at the school, and I said, "All right, sure. Let me just jump in." And when I showed up, she said, "We need help in hair and makeup." And I thought, okay, whatever, sure. So I walked in, and the guy who was designing the hair and makeup for a show in 1994 was today is a physicist. So you have a mathematician and a physicist designing the hair and makeup for a production of Assassins in Chicago. and
There's
and
something
after
appropriate about that, though, given that
I know,
show.
right. Yeah, exactly. And then after 3 weeks of running that show, I had 1 week left before graduation. I called my mother and I said, "Oh my gosh, I think I made a terrible mistake. I think I know what I want to do now." Just took 3 weeks of exposure to something and I knew what I wanted. So but obviously I had to graduate and I had to get a job and I had to live, survive. So I became a mathematician like I was supposed to. But I couldn't stop thinking about this. So I spent the next 11 years working very hard to figure out ways to get into this career. To first of all, to learn, because I had to learn everything. I didn't know anything. And I wasn't. I'm going to be blunt. I had just finished 20 years of school. I was not about to go back to school. I was tired. I was, exhausted from school. So I thought, I'm not going to go about this that way, and I'm going to take more time. And so it took me 11 years to make that leap, but I finally did. In 2005, I switched careers fully.
That's amazing. I didn't wait tables, you crunch numbers.
Right. That's right.
You know, I want to. Was reading an article that you had participated in an interview, and I'm going to go there first because we're at the Tony time,
Yeah,
and we just did a program on the Tonys. There is no award given by the Tonys for hair, wigs, and makeup.
that's right.
That's got
It's
to leave
very
you with
upsetting.
I was going to say you're going to need some antacids for that.
Yeah, yeah. Eh, there's a lot of reasons behind it. Um, all of which just point to inequity, you know? Um, and there's a lot of, I'm gonna be blunt about this and hopefully this doesn't hurt my career. There's a lot of ego behind it as well, you know? But I mean, it's not shocking to be in the theater world and let there be egos that are present, right? Um, you know, uh, ultimately at the end of the day, it's there's always going to be insecurity in every career, right? And that's the insecurity talking. And I think some people are afraid that if you give a Tony Award, you have to pay them more. Which, okay, maybe you do. Is that terrible? I mean, it doesn't mean you don't make a profit. It means you make less of a profit, right? It's sort of like my favorite thing is every time you hear a company say, um, company XYZ lost $5 billion this year. No, company XYZ made 5 billion less than they did last year. It's still in profit territory. It's just 5 billion less. That doesn't mean you've lost $5 billion in any way. You're still profitable, I mean, if you lost 5 billion, like literally legitimately lost, you'd be out of business. It's just that simple. So you're still operating, so you just made 5 billion less. So the same thing is true for shows, right? If you have to pay us more, well, and not all shows are profitable. We know this, but of the shows that are profitable, you'll still be profitable. Maybe mildly less profitable, but you'll still be profitable. So that's part of the issue. Um,
Wasn't it Gordon Gekko who said greed is good?
yes, yes. And some of it is also related to I think just old standards and why change what's not broken,
Mm.
you know? Um, and I think that's actually a lot of it. And I think there's also this other part that is, this is, let me put this really bluntly, hair and makeup, that's woman's work. You know what I mean? And we're in a very patriarchal society, right? So, I mean, I think that definitely plays into it. So, yeah,
It's funny
it's
you
very
say that.
complicated.
There's a local fella who's a performer and also does wigs and makeup, Tom Camera.
Yeah.
And that's
Hmm.
who I think of in the capital region. I would imagine Ellen does also.
Yeah.
That's the first thought. And it's a guy.
Yeah.
So, the times have changed.
100%. But regardless if it's a guy or a woman, what does that matter?
You're
What's the difference?
exactly right. But
It's
to your
the
point
equal
about
work.
patriarchy, you're
Right.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So it
I,
is
I,
very complicated, and it brings up a lot of emotions in all of us who do this for a living,
sure.
but none of us are short on words for it. So
I'm glad we had that opportunity because I think now, especially with the Tonys, now people begin to understand, especially after hearing from you and the work that you have done. You've done over 700 shows.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the Sophie's Choice question.
Oh
Do you have a
no, I can't. Do you want me to pick? Okay, I can pick experiences that really are very special to me. How about that? Not necessarily what's the favorite. I can't do that. Um, uh, so I'm gonna be honest. So my Broadway debut is holds such a huge special part in my heart. That was Porgy and Bess with Audra and Norm.
Oh,
Um, that was an amazing Broadway debut. That's a first of all, it's a great show to have as your Broadway debut, because not only do you have that, you also have amazing direction by Diane Paulus. You have an amazing book that was written by Susan Laurie Parks, who's like one of the best playwrights out there. She took this opera and turned it into a musical by, and yes, I'm sure it was difficult to hear that some things were cut out and pared down, but turned it into a legit Broadway musical that wasn't simply opera. That wasn't simply an opera. And I say simply, opera is the most complex form of musical art, right? But really turned it into something quite beautiful. And then I got to work with Emilio Sosa, he's the chair of the American Theater Wing right now. He was the costume designer for that. Um, and then of course that was my introduction to get to work with Audra McDonald and Norm Lewis, right? And
oh, where do you go from there?
I know exactly. You know where I go next? My second Broadway show was Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill with Audra McDonald again.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
like, so yeah, I go from Audra to Audra, right? So that's where you go, right? And then I got to meet Lonnie Price, who directed that piece, and I've worked with Lonnie so many times, and I've worked with Diane Paulus so many times. So you get this really amazing. You get these amazing chances, and you just have to say yes to them, because then these great chances beget other great chances, right? So
Let me
so
ask
that
you,
so that's it. Go ahead.
right, I'm going to jump in. So you're a mathematician and you fall in love with theater, and it's the hair and the wigs and the makeup. Share with us the first time the show is yours and what that experience is like. Like, yeah, the training wheels are off.
Yeah. So, okay, well, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember the first time the show was my own at this point. I had been designing, and I guess it all depends on what you mean by the show is mine, right? I'd been a designer already starting in 1994. In 94, after I did that one show with that one guy, I reached out to every community theater in Chicago. One of them bit and said, "Yeah, come on, design our show." I had no right to design it. I had no experience, but I did, right? So that was technically mine, right? But if you're talking about like the first time it was a show, let's say an off-Broadway show in New York or a regional show, I can't remember what that was. But that said, I do remember that one of the things I did is I used to have a design partner. His name is Rob Green. He lives up in the Boston area. He left design to go into TV film. He left theatrical design to do TV film. So we split our business up a long time ago, but we're still very close friends. But so it wasn't just me alone. I'll be honest, I not only was I so nervous, but I think there was a lot of imposter syndrome going on. So it was very helpful for me to have a partner to navigate this with. Um, he was a stronger hairstylist than I was back then, and that was very helpful to me. So while the training wheels were off, were they completely off? I don't know. Like they were still partly there, right? Even Porgy and Bess, even by that point, that was Rob Green and I designed that show together, right? And Lady Day, right? So all of that, I still had Rob to rely on, which was amazing, because we really bounced ideas off of each other. Well, I was better at the technical aspect, he was better at the artistic aspect. So what I needed to do to really get those training wheels off was get better at the artistic aspect, and I did. So what was it like that first time doing a big, like a Broadway show on my own? I'm trying to think of what that first Broadway show was. I want to say that first Broadway show on my own was might have been Indecent, um, or it might have been Getting the Band Back Together. Let's say it was either one. Doesn't really, but maybe it was. I feel like I still co-designed Indecent, but so it was. again, a lot of imposter syndrome. Only this time I had a level of confidence about other abilities, right? But I still thought they're gonna discover that I'm all a hoax in a moment. They're never gonna hire me back, right? And then I got another job, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna figure it out any minute now. They're gonna figure this out, and it still happens to this day. Even though now I'm like well into over 30 Broadway shows, like I just I still get that, but I definitely feel much more confident. I'm at this point, I know what I need to feel confident walking into a show, which I didn't necessarily know that the first few times, but now I really know what I need to feel confident. So,
Jared, is there an an overriding a constant when it comes to the challenge when you first get the material to create the design of it? Is there a thread that runs through every show for your design creative process?
well, for me, I need I some people can design by looking at someone and say, okay, I know what you need. I need a very good dramaturgical background for every single design I'm about to put on that stage. I don't want to go out there and say, "Oh, I put this because it looks really great on this person," and then someone asks me, "Well, why do we do it this way?" And I have no answer. You know, what I'm saying is, I need the thing that makes me feel comfortable most is to over prepare. And that's not just with the dramaturgy, but that's also with, I'm also the guy who shows up to tech with two, even on Broadway, where they buy the wigs. I show up with wigs from my own rental stock just in case I need an alternative because I'm like, it's just not working. So I show up with, if you're supposed to show up with 2 bags of wigs, I show up with 4 bags of wigs. If you're supposed to show up with a bag of makeup, I show up with two, Hulkin bags. You know those bags? Those giant wheel bags. So I have like the small and the medium Hulkins. I will show up with 2 medium-sized Hulkins of makeup, 5 large IKEA bags of wigs, just because I need that there. It's a security blanket, but it's also proven to me to be very helpful at all times because when I need something, it's there and I can do it right away. Um,
You right now you've worked on John Proctor's The Villain.
yes,
Give us a little back, behind the scenes on that one.
yeah. So there's no wigs in that show.
Yeah.
We knew right when the moment I read that script, I just remember thinking, this is a no wig show. This needs to be as real as possible. I need nothing to separate the actors from the audience, right? Sometimes a wig, sometimes a costume piece, sometimes a prop can separate them. It kind of takes them out of it just a little bit. And I just need this to be so if they have to worry about there's if you have not seen the show, there's dancing choreo in the show. It's not just and there's fight choreo. There's so much going on in the show. It's really more of a musical than it is a play, even though it's not a musical. So I knew that going into designing it, and I just thought, okay, I want no wigs in the show. And when I talked to the director, we were all on the same page. Great. So what that meant I had to do was I had to really work with each actor to figure out dramaturgically what makes so much sense for every single character. And remembering that there are about how many days are there? 10 different days we're talking about throughout the course of the show. So they can't look the same from day to day to day, right? While I look the same every day, that's because I'm bald, right? But if you have hair, your hair looks different a little bit every day, right? Today you wear it in a ponytail. Tomorrow, humidity affected it, whatever. So we had to come up with reasons rather for every single look in every single day. So let me give you a great example. There was a character named Ivy, who's played by the actress Maggie Kuntz. And Ivy is the wealthiest girl in the school. Now, what was really funny about this script when I read it, all these students are 16 years old. It's 2018. It's Georgia. And I, what was great about the script, even though I was in high school in the 80s, I knew almost every single one of these people in high school. There was one character I didn't know, and that's the lead, Shelby, who's played by Sadie Sink. I did not know a Shelby because Shelby is a very self-aware young lady, and I did not know anyone who was that self-aware in high school. But Ivy I actually knew somebody, I'm not going to say their name, but I knew a guy who was Ivy. and he too was wealthy. He had a major scandal happen in his family, and he wanted to both be present but disappear in front of all the students. And I totally knew that. In fact, he came back the next year with a different name in the second year after the scandal. So it's really interesting. And so with Ivy, I knew that what we wanted to do was we wanted her to both be present and yet hide. So we wanted her to stand out but not stand out. That sounds crazy, but it makes total sense when you see the show. And the costume designer did this amazing thing where she gave this character, I think it was a Tiffany bracelet, because she would have had a Tiffany. This character, she had the money. They had the money. And I remember when I saw one of these great outfits that she was wearing. It's this beautiful, like a gray skirt, sort of short. Think like the looks from Clueless, the movie, how very curated those looks were. So it's very curated like this. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I know exactly what I need. I had to go out to the store. I needed a Burberry headband. This sounds so crazy, right? But it wasn't actually Burberry. I found something really close because while the costume designer had a little bit more budget than I did for that bracelet, I did not have this for a Burberry headband. But I found the best knockoff that I could come up with. And I gave it to her. And when the director said, okay, does she wear this headband the whole show? I said, no, no, no. This outfit that she's wearing, that headband goes with this outfit. See, this is the first time her mother trusted her to pick out this entire outfit from head to toe. And she did such a good job, including that bracelet, that mom is so impressed. And Ivy feels such pride for how much mom approved of this outfit that she wears this outfit the same every time she wears it. That headband only goes with that skirt, with that bracelet, with that top, with those shoes. And she wears this twice in the show because this is like her most prized outfit that she created. And I knew that the moment I saw it, I'm like, oh, and she wears other outfits, but that outfit is not, I know what this needs. This is exactly who this character is. She would wear this always together because mom gave the approval and she seeks mom's approval that way. And so that was one of my little dramaturgical things that I came up with for that show. And that's just one of like 100 dramaturgical things I had to come up with. But I was so inspired by what the costume designer Sarah Lux did on it that it was like, yes, I've got it. I figured it out right away. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, that's it. So
That's so amazing to the untrained and even the trained eye. You think, oh yeah, they just do the hair.
yeah,
No, it's
no,
you are an integral part of the storytelling.
yeah.
What is that collaboration like
So
with the costumes, with set, with light, with all the designers? Talk about that process of how you are impacted by them, they are impacted by you, and how you work as a team.
So it's interesting you asked that question because so that costume designer I just mentioned, Sarah Lux, we're doing another show right now. We just did 3 shows in a row together. We did John Proctor as the villain, Dead Outlaw on Broadway, and now we're doing a new show at the Atlantic Theater in New York called Low Country. I love working with Sarah. She is not only is she so thoughtful about this, but she is demanding in the nicest way possible. You she is like Ivy's mom, right? If I was talking about John Proctor, you want to make her happy because she brings such a high level of detail and thought to it. And I love working with people who bring that thought and that dramaturgy and that level of taste, And so my job is to match her level of taste every single step of the way. If I don't match it, it will be obvious, to at least the two of us, and the director will certainly get it, right? And then we have to talk about this the amazing scenic design of this show, which takes place in a classroom, and the lighting design. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear this. There's a loud alarm outside my window, and I apologize for that. Uh, but the scenic design, the show takes place in a classroom, right? And so, which means it's daytime, which means it's very bright, right? So all the colors are true to form. So you have to know, like, sometimes you buy a shirt and oh, that's going to look that's going to look paler or whatever under the lights. Everything is true to form under these lights because it is sunlight bright, you know. And so we have to understand how the lights are impacting everything on the set, and how our clothes and how our hair and all that stuff stands up against all that. So we collaborate very well, and I'm thrilled to be able to do this with Sarah Lux, who brings so much detail to all of these things. And then, of course, you have a director like Danya Tamor, who I gotta say, working with her has been such a treat. Nothing slips by her eye. Not one detail slips by her eye. I will change one tiny thing and she'll say, "Oh, Jared, you changed that. Oh, I like the way that looks." Or, "Jared, I think it worked better yesterday. Can you go back to that one?" The tiniest little detail was there. And I love that she caught it all because there's so many details on this in this show. This is not a minimalist show. And I love working with detail-oriented people like that. So,
How does mathematics fit in all this?
oh gosh. You know what? You know where that does that I like in my work, I all of my work is very creative, right? But in my life, I need order and organization. I love left brain, right brain, right? And I love both of them equally. Um, but in my own personal life, I need order and organization. I can't stand an unmade bed in my house, you know. Mathematics provided me with a huge level of organization. Um, Even the way I run the business part of it, because one thing we forget to talk about sometimes is this is called show business, right? But we're pronouncing it wrong. It's show business. It's not show business, right? It is still a business. We have to. It's not just our livelihood, but the people who work for us as well. So, and I have to run that like a mathematician, not like an artist.
Mm.
I'm not saying artists can't run business, but let's be blunt here and say the business side is very mathematical. And
Yeah.
and so that's the part that I rely on most just to run my life.
You have a business also. You've got a pipeline for young and developing talent.
Yes, my company's called Backstage Artistry, and it is a wig makeup design company. But what we try to do is I try to bring on as many new associates as possible um, onto shows so I can start training the next generation of designers. We don't have enough designers right now, enough wig designers in this country. Um, if you look at who's designing on Broadway right now, I would say there's probably seven of us, and there's a lot of Broadway shows each year. And what that means is that we all have too much work. I'm not complaining. That's not a complaint. I love what I do. I love being busy. I'm glad I still have the energy at this age to be busy, but there's room for more people. And Broadway has always been gate kept. A lot of people, when it takes so long to get here, it takes a long time to get to Broadway. And once you've gotten to Broadway once, that doesn't guarantee you a return to Broadway. After I got the first Broadway show, it was another year before I got into the next one, and then another year. The first 12 Broadway shows took me 10 years. And then the next 19 took me 4 years. Right. So it was they were slow to come because my name wasn't out there enough. And I think maybe also I needed to develop as an artist more. But still, the point though is that, and so I understand how many designers feel when they say, "Listen, it took me so long to get here. It's taken me so long to get to this point where now people have called me regularly for Broadway, and I don't want to give it up. I don't want to release this grip that I maybe supposedly have somehow. But I don't have a grip on Broadway, and I should not have ownership over Broadway. And yet, too many designers feel they have that ownership, and that's so unfair. It took me too long to get here, and I'm determined to help others try to get there a little bit faster. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be prepared and you shouldn't be a very good artist. You need to be at literally the top of the game. You don't have a choice. So if you're not ready, you don't belong there. But if you're ready, I don't think you should have to take 10 years to get 12 shows. Like, because there's room for more people. So one of the things, there's two things I've been trying to do. One is bring on more associates, people who want to become designers to help them know this process. People have asked me to teach them how to design, and I can't do that because I'm not going what is that worth to you for me to download 31 years of information to you? That's not fair. Like, that's worth millions of dollars in my opinion. So, but if you want to be my associate, you'll learn it all on one show. You'll learn. Not only will you learn how I design, how my process goes, and all this stuff, you'll also learn the practical things like where do you buy hair from? How much hair should you buy? Where do you find lace? Who do you pick as the person to run your show? They'll learn all of those processes in like one 6-week show. right? And they'll get paid to do it. And so I'm trying to get more associates and trying to give them more opportunities. The other thing I'm trying to do right now is co-design with people who've been my associates in the past to give them designer credits. Now, we haven't co-designed on Broadway yet. However, this year, we're so close. I don't have the contract yet. I'm not going to say what it is, but there was a show that we designed last year. I co-designed with someone last year that has been announced, hopefully, to go to Broadway in this new season. And if that does, and if we go, assuming we go with it, we have it in the contract to go with it, so we'll see. Then this person will be making their Broadway debut this year.
How exciting.
Right? Which is very, very difficult to do in the first place, but this is the best way to do it. So I'm hoping we can continue doing this with more young designers.
That's great. Ellen, 5 minutes. Bring us home.
Yeah, I was going to
I'm
say.
so sorry that I spoke so much.
No, I love
Not
it.
at all.
I do have to ask one quick question before Zoom kicks us off, because one of my favorite things when I see a show is to try to determine who's wigged and who is not. So what percentage would you say of Broadway is wigged, if you had to take a rough guess?
That is so difficult. It's so in terms of like, can we just say male presenting versus female presenting? Male presenting, much fewer, far fewer. My guess is way less than 25%. I wouldn't be surprised if that number is somewhere even below 10% of the male presenting people on Broadway. Female presenting, well, it's different it all depends on the shows, right? Because it depends on like how many different characters is somebody playing. But let me throw out a number out there. More than 50% of the female presenting actors on Broadway are wigged.
Wow.
But like, I have shows right now, Dead Outlaw, no wigs except on the understudies. I have John Proctor, no wigs. I have Glengarry Glen Ross, no wigs, right? Buena Vista, all female presenting people are wigged, and some of the men are wigged, so it just depends. Wicked is a show that I work on. Everybody's wigged except for most of the male presenting. And Juliet, all female presenting, none of the male presenting.
And it's so tricky with the wigs, because not only does it need to look realistic and everything, but then you've got the mic packs, right? A lot of times mic packs get put up in there, correct?
Depends on the size of the mic pack, but yeah, a lot of the mic packs are up in the hair. Yeah, sometimes they're back here, sometimes they're up here. Depends on the style and the size of the pack. Sometimes the packs can't fit, so they got to go on the body.
Yeah,
I prefer them on the body. I don't want to design my wig around a mic pack, which is what I have to do. But so I prefer them not on the head. But
excellent.
It's crazy.
Well, this has been so enlightening and amazing. And it is, to bring it full circle, it is a crime that your work is not recognized in the Tony Awards. We will say that every year
Thank you so much.
One day someone says we need to change it.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
But all the best, and keep us posted on all the projects you have coming up. We'll post about it and let everyone know about all your great work. And for our listeners, thank you for listening. Go check out At the Wedding at Harbinger, runs till the 15th. And of course, we will see you at the festival this weekend, June 12th through the 15th. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn, and if you're looking for a little out-of-town trip, the Majestic Theater, West Springfield, a couple of tickets probably still left for the 18th through the 22nd. And Jared, we're going to keep an eye out for the show that you're talking about that should be going to Broadway, so make sure to let us know so we can promote it.
Sounds
all best,
great.
everybody. Take care. I'm Benita Zahn.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.